In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, please be seated. You are witnesses to a very mystical event. Mysticism, they think, is for those who are advanced in spiritual exercises and spiritual life, but no, it's for everyone. A mystical event is for anyone who is open to Christ's action in your life. Because you see that these apostles who had seen Christ in the upper room put their fingers in his wounds and fed him fish and honeycomb, knew that he was not a ghost, but in fact he was a risen human being who had risen out of the tomb after a brutal death and execution. Defying death in its face. I spit on you, O death, where is your curse? Where is your sting? I stand before you, having descended into the bowels of hell itself, and liberated the captives who were captivated by slavers to sin and death. I have liberated them and sent them on their way to paradise, where they belonged with Adam before the fall of man. And here, having done all that, he appears to his apostles to tie up any loose ends that they might have had. You may recall that Peter had denied Christ 3 times. He had said at the Last Supper, I will die for you before I let anyone touch you. Oh, really, Peter? I tell you truly, before the cock crows this morning, you will have denied me 3 times. Never, Lord, never. And yet, after they arrested Jesus, one of the people at the fire outside said, you're one of his disciples. No, I don't know the man. Yes, I recognize you. You're one of his followers. Yes, no, I don't know him. You must be mistaken. And another one said, you are one of his followers, one of his disciples. He says, I tell you, I don't know the man. Leave me alone. And the cock crowed. And he saw the eyes of Jesus as he was being led out. And he realized that he had just denied his Lord 3 times. He went out and wept bitterly. We are told, bitterly wept for sorrow at what he had done. I can't tell you how many times I have wept bitterly for the things I've done to betray him. And yet, in the tender compassion of our God, he meets us, he feeds us, and he says, do you love me? Yes, Lord, I love you. Do you love me? Yes, I love you. Do you love me? Of course I do. This I do. Directly replacing his denial, his sin, with this affirmation of faith. It's never too late. Yesterday morning, the sun emitted an M-class flare. An M-class emission of plasma directed directly at us on Earth. We watch these things. All of you come for breakfast, you realize that we watch the sun and we watch for these type of eruptions. The most famous of which was called the Covington event, which happened in 1877 when the sun emitted an M-class flare directed at Earth, and all the telegraph lines went down. Fires erupted spontaneously throughout the earth. People lost their minds and were insane. And this flare, which erupted yesterday morning, will arrive at Earth beginning in about half an hour from now. And will continue throughout this evening and tonight and into tomorrow morning. This plasma eruption is coming directly at Earth, verified by the NASA satellites. You know, there are two satellites, SOHO and NASA. There's a lady that comes here called So, and I always confuse her with the name of this satellite, and I call her SOHO because it's the name of the satellite that is always in my mind. SOHO, this Solar Observatory, Heliographic Observatory. And so it has nothing to do with any other connotation, but I have this in my mind with SOHO because I'm watching it every day along with the NASA satellite. And so these satellites have confirmed, double of them, that this eruption took place, and it is aimed directly at us. And it is here, it's approaching even now as we speak here. Today is, what's the date today?
Sunday.
The 25th? 22nd of April, 2023, sorry. And the star date I do not know. But in our Gregorian calendar is April 22nd, 2023. And so this particular flare is impacting Earth today, tonight. It is not expected to be a catastrophic event. The KP index is somewhere around 7 or 8. If it were a catastrophic event, the KP index would be over 12. These are logarithmic scales, if you know what that means, that each number in the scale is times 10 the number before it. So that if you are expecting this magnitude today, we're expecting some disruptions in telecommunications. Maybe the internet will go down in various places. Fires may erupt throughout the world. And people who are subject to energies such as bipolar disorders, various schizophrenic conditions, people who are having pacemakers installed in their chest for regulating heartbeats and things like that, they may experience discomfort. They may get the shakes. It's nothing to be alarmed at. Eat a little cheese, you should be all right. But it is a foreshadowing of what is to come. They have determined, of course, scientists, that the magnetic field in the Earth has diminished and is diminishing on a rapidly increasing scale over the last 150 years. And this, we are told, is at the end of a 12,000-year cycle, in which there is a 12,000-year cycle of tachyon wave that comes from the center of our galaxy, which has the effect of flipping the polarity of all of the planets in our solar system, so that the North Pole and the South Pole flip in some fashion, but not perfectly. They go off about, 80 degrees and not 90 degrees.
Weather phenomenon.
And so it flips, and it is rapidly happening. Well, this particular M-class flare that's coming at us is going to give the scientists additional data to understand how far our magnetic field on our planet has diminished. Can't just gauge it by the amount of the northern lights. it's measured. They have satellites in place to actually measure, empirically measure this magnetic field and the effect of this solar flare, and to sort of draw some data. But what is happening is that it will affect the actual experience of life on Earth. People who are alive now, you and I, and all of us who are alive in this moment in time, will experience this event in our own ways. There may be some generalities that can be made, but each of us will experience this in our own way. It is as if they say a window is opening up into the heavenly celestial realm for our own intelligence to be able to comprehend a new insight into existence itself. In other words, it is a foretaste of the resurrection. It is a foretaste of the ascension of man. It is a foretaste of our being reunited into the celestial with the celestial in the celestial powers, the principalities, powers, thrones, dominions, celestial virtues, the many-eyed cherubim, the six-winged seraphim, and all these different powers that we ascribe virtues to. These are frequencies. These are attributes that we assign to them, that we are often given some way to relate to them. Well, what is purity of heart? What color is it? What does it feel like? What is compassion? What is humility? What is patience? What is exasperation to the limit? Well, we all know what that one is. What is anger to the point of taking us out of our personality? What does that feel like? It's a frequency, it's a resonance, it's an emotion, it's a condition that is human, that is energetic in its nature. We call these things mystical experiences because we can relate to them and communicate with these things before they actually take place in us. We can experience them mystically. And so these events which are happening now are sort of like Christ on the shore saying, come on in. You hungry? You want some breakfast? Have you caught anything yet? You remember at the beginning of his public ministry, he went out to the Sea of Galilee, and those fishermen were out all night. And they hadn't caught a doggone thing. They hadn't caught anything. And he said, have you caught anything? No, we've been out all night. Well, cast your net to the right side. But we've already been out here all night. We know there's nothing out here. But do it anyway, because you're Jesus. And so they put their net out to the right side of the boat. And they had to have two boats to carry in all the fish. And then almost sunk the boat. And then today we hear these say, have you caught anything? No, we've been out all night. Well, put your net out to the right side of the boat. They remembered, it's the Lord. Put their net out to the right side of the boat. They caught 153 fish, which at the time was 153 countries of the whole world. The whole world, they caught up in their net. Symbolically. And they could barely carry it to the shore for the weight of it. The weight of the whole world is heavy. But with faith in Christ Jesus, they managed to get it across to the shore. What are they going to do with 153 fish with 12 people? They had to have more people to enjoy that harvest. They had to have more. He says, have you caught it? Which means, when the beginning of his ministry, he said, I'll make you fishers of men. When he says, have you caught anything yet? Get busy. Do I have to do this all over again? You, go out and catch some people, catch some men. Bring them into the faith. How do you do that? By your infinite words of wisdom? By your life itself. Show them by the life that you lead. St. Paul says, if you are a thief, stop robbing people. If you're a liar, start telling the truth. If you're sick, imagine yourself as healed. If you're down and out, imagine yourself as full. If you're hungry, imagine yourself as satisfied. If you're weeping, imagine yourself as joyful. If you're poor, imagine yourself with all wealth. Because it's not a vain imagining, it is a co-creation of your existence in God. He shows us by this mystical experience that you are connected with all that is. All existence is connected to us by faith in Him. Do you love me? That's the answer. Do you love me? If you love me, then keep my commandments. What are my commandments? That you love one another as I've loved you, which is emptying yourself for the benefit of others. If you love me, you'll keep my commandments. That you love one another as yourself. If you love me, you'll feed the hungry. That you'll clothe the naked. That you'll be kind to those who may or may not even deserve it. That you'll have some compassion in your life for those who have less than you. We're not talking about material things here. We're talking about spiritual things here. I know people who have absolutely nothing and yet have a vast spiritual possession. You can experience this Christ on the shore, realizing that He who is triumphant over all of evil, He who has conquered Satan, who has spit in the face of death and risen from it, if He would condescend after His glorious resurrection to come and want to give you some breakfast. Might want you to do likewise. Might inspire you and show you that the way to haul in the whole world is by the virtuous life that you should lead in imitation of Him. What did He do? He healed people. He fed people. He taught people. He showed people by His life how we should live. What is our life like? What was Adam's life like before the fall? That's Jesus there before them. And the restoration of man to what Jesus is and what Adam was is now your prerogative by choice. You can choose it. You can choose to believe in Him. And by that faith, the transformation does take place with us, within us entirely, mystically. And our insight is opened up into the heavens and beyond, transcending time, space, My prayer is that this M-Class event, which is happening and which is upon the earth at this moment and coming on throughout this night and tomorrow, that it will, instead of driving people crazy, driving people into chaos, when to kill one another like rats in the cage, they may be able to imagine and bring themselves up out of it and look down on the world with compassion and understanding. This is the message of today. Transcend that evil which is upon the world, which is clinging and holding and desperately trying to hold us down into slavery and sin and death and murder, anger, hatred, bitterness, and delusion, that can free us from that and lift yourself up into a free life that is dedicated to, yes, Lord, I love you. Yes, Lord, I love you. Yes, Lord,